But I disagree with that. I think families should be very involved with academic life. Moms and dads should be very aware of how they're doing in reading, how they're doing in math, if they're struggling with this subject. You can see this in the success of kids academically too, is that when you have more involvement in the family, you have more successful kids. The parents who have apathy and they don't care about their kids, those are the kids who tend to fall behind because they actually don't care themselves. Like, why should they if their parents don't care? By the way, if you guys are watching, please make sure you click on the link below at teacherswish.com and you can check out all the shirts that I make for teachers. I pick and design all the shirts myself and I make sure it's really comfortable for all teachers to wear. Thank you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Teacher's Wish podcast.
Welcome back.
We're going to get straight into it. For today's episode, we're going to talk about everything going on with all of the current events with schools. The first topic we're getting into is the idea of 4-day school weeks. A lot of districts are switching to a 4-day week where they have longer days and they have 1 weekday off. So for example, Texas alone had 500 plus schools on a 4-day week schedule from 2024 to 2025. It says that 24 states have at least one school district using a 4-day school week schedule, an increase of over 600% since 1999.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of rural states. It says that at least 24 states have one or more districts that are implementing this 4-day week.
It can't be that common. Like you look at it and it's only 850. I mean, there's got to be thousands, tens of thousands, almost hundreds of, I don't know, like schools. So this is probably a very small percentage of schools that do this.
It's a small percentage. It's not very common, but it is happening. So it could be the start of a new trend.
Sure.
It seems like a lot of the teachers are reporting back that they feel happier, there is higher retention, and they seem to like it.
I think teachers would like it too, right? Because if there's a 4-day week, then I'm sure teachers would love having a 5th day off where they have 4 days and then they get Fridays off or something like that.
Yeah, I think it actually depends on the district. They can choose whether they want to do shorter weeks but longer days. So on average, we have like 7-hour days, but they extend it to like 8-hour days.
Sure.
You can do that. Or I've also heard of districts who make teachers still come in on Fridays, but have the Fridays be like IEP meetings, PD days, just like curriculum, instruction, planning time, because they still need to meet the amount of total instructional minutes because that's a state mandate. And then you can cut a weekday, but then add time somewhere else by like lengthening the remaining 4 days. And it says that some like Texas districts have announced that even on the days off on Fridays, they still provide childcare and they still provide meals on the off days too. And like tutoring and activities. If you're one of the teachers working a 4-day school week, I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you like it? Do you not like it? As a parent too, if you have a kid who doesn't go to school on Fridays, what do you guys think about this transition? I think I would like that.
I think I would like that too.
Yeah.
It's nice having Fridays off and being able to just go to the dentist or go see the doctors or go do errands or do like literally anything other than go work.
I would love that. I think that sounds really cool.
I think a lot of teachers, if they had the 4-day weekdays, they would probably spend that 5th day working anyways. But I think that if teachers are going to take those 4-day weeks, you should just not work the 5th day because your pay doesn't change. They're not adding hours or subtracting hours. It's just your days get longer and they're fitting the same number of instructional hours within your same 4-day week schedule.
Yeah. Even if I don't get paid, sometimes I still want those days in the week where I can just go in and just like organize or clean up or do things that I don't have time for normally when I have kids in the classroom.
Yeah.
I also wonder how the parents feel about this because like if we have a kid and we also have to go to work on Fridays,
and they don't have
we have to figure out where the child goes on Fridays. And that's extra responsibilities and extra burdensome for the parent.
Those are some of the cons, but then some of the pros could be, well, now that's a 5th day that teachers, parents, and students don't need to go to school. So that's saving on gas, that's saving on food, that's saving on just anything that you have to do just to get to school. You get better attendance apparently because now you only have to take attendance for 4 days.
Right.
So.
But there's also the other side where kids would be sent to school because they have food at school.
Yeah.
And now that they don't go on Fridays, sometimes that is not good for the kid because they don't have food at home. So I think that's why the districts are providing that kind of alternative options where they can come and still get free food and maybe childcare, but it's district by district.
It's usually the rural school districts that are seeing this type of change in the school schedule. But it actually said that Missouri is one of the states that has seen a huge surge in the use of this 4-day school weeks. It actually says approximately 25% of schools in Missouri adopted this schedule in 2022 to 2023, which is crazy to me. Like
25%?
25% of schools in Missouri. I don't even know what's in Missouri, but
I
if
don't
you
know
guys are in
either.
Missouri, please let us know if this is true. But that's crazy.
That is crazy.
But that basically means that, yeah, kids don't go to school on Fridays. I assume that parents would probably figure something out where they can also stay home or
Yeah.
have some
They
sort
have
of daycare system
they
set up.
have like boys and girls clubs too.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
stuff that they
Some
can
sort of
tell.
like local organizations that takes in kids. Yeah.
An average 5-day school day is about 6 hours and 54 minutes or maybe 7 hours on like a 5-day schedule. But on a 4-day schedule, you'd have to work probably closer to 8 or 9 hours,
Yeah,
right?
it's like an extra hour.
Like an extra hour that you have to work every single day. Do you
Yeah.
think teachers would burn out even more?
I think if we knew that Fridays were off, if we knew that we wouldn't have to come to school on Friday, I wouldn't get burnt out.
Okay. You get burnt out like daily, but then knowing on Thursday, like, oh my God, I'm done with the week, then that would give you motivation and
Yeah.
hope.
I mean, even like, let's say there's a Veterans Day or like a 3-day weekend or Thanksgiving break, like just the idea that we have one day off of the whole school week or 2 days off or like a whole week off, that motivates us for the entire month. We look forward to that. So if I know that I have every Friday off, I will definitely have more energy, more fervor, more motivation to go throughout my days.
Do you think teachers, if they were deciding between a school that offered 4 days versus a 5-day schedule, what would teachers prefer?
Well, if I can speak for everyone, I think they would all pick 4 days. And what do you guys think? I would pick a 4-day.
I think everyone would pick 4 days. So next topic is homework in elementary schools. There's a 10-minute rule, which is you do 10 minutes multiplied by the grade. So if you're in first grade, you do 10 minutes. If you're in second grade, you do 20 minutes. If you're in third grade, you do 30 minutes of homework that you have to do, divided up amongst the subjects that you're teaching, right? And it sounds like there's a lot of studies that show little to no academic gain for primary kids, and the benefits show up later once you start going to middle school and high school. There's not a huge developmental gain for students that are just in elementary. Lots of stress, extra time, gives negligible returns and widens the gap. Like, do you think that homework is actually necessary in elementary schools, or do you think that it could just be ignored?
I think if you use homework correctly, it can be beneficial and necessary. It teaches you discipline, and it also, the reason why I like to give homework out to my kindergarteners, they only need to do like maybe 10 or 15 minutes of homework, and that should be it. You don't want to go over the recommended amount because you don't want it to be like a punishment, right? But the reason why I like to give homework out to kindergarteners is because not only for them to review the skills that we learned that week, and not only for them to like understand that academic doesn't finish at school. Academics should be everywhere in your life. You should bring it back home. You should be working with your parents. You should be implementing this everywhere around your household. You should be reading at home, right? You should have a relationship towards books with your parents. But I also really implement homework in kindergarten because kindergarteners cannot do homework by themselves. They need adult assistant. And because they need adult assistant, it requires the parents to be involved in their learning. And that's so crucial for parents to understand because a lot of times they have this mentality where school is school. When you come home, you don't have to worry about school. You actually don't have to tell me what happened at school. We don't really need to do anything academic together. That's a separate category in your life than family time. But I disagree with that. I think families should be very involved with academic life. Moms and dads should be very aware of how they're doing in reading, how they're doing in math. If they're struggling with this subject, they should be the ones that should be their crutch when they come home and they don't understand the concept. The parents should be the one walking them through it. Even if they don't understand, like struggle together, and so that the kid doesn't feel alone in this whole process and they don't come back to school still not knowing anything, right? And that's what I remember is that when I grew up, my parents were very, very involved, and you can see this in the success of kids academically too, is that when you have more involvement in the family, you have more successful kids. The parents who have apathy and they don't care about their kids, whether they're succeeding at school or not, those are the kids who tend to fall behind because they actually don't care themselves. Like, why should they if their parents don't care?
I think more than the homework load, then, it sounds like it's more focused on parent involvement, right? So homework load could be less, or it could be minimal, or it could follow this 10-minute rule. But what you can't supplement or replace is the involvement of parents.
Right. So when people are recommending to do homework at home, it shouldn't be like busy work. It shouldn't be like worksheets after worksheets. It should be more like reading a book with your family member or playing like a math fluency game with a sibling. Intentional activities that you can do with your family members that also teaches them accountability, cooperativeness with everyone's involvement. After kindergarten, you should be giving homework that is completed independently.
Sure.
Doing this work independently without the parents' assistance. And that helps with the parents who feel overwhelmed and then they have long hours at work and they come home and they don't want to do homework with their kid.
What about middle school and high school students? How much homework do you think they should get?
I think the ultimate goal is to teach kids starting from like middle school and high school to fend for themselves and to independently have study skills, right? Because you eventually want them to grow up so that they're capable of researching things themselves, completing tasks themselves, going off to college and getting assigned something and they have to go and finish it themselves. These are the skills that you eventually have to work towards. So starting from middle school, maybe you do like 30 minutes and then you go higher to like 35, 40, 45 minutes. When I was in high school, I think I did average an hour of homework, but then afterwards I would study for like the SAT or something myself.
Next topic is book bans. So in 2024 and 2025, schools have recorded 6,870 book bans across 23 states and 87 districts. Florida led these numbers, followed by Texas and Tennessee. Since 2021, there have been 22,810 bans total, which is very, very high. Let's define what book ban means. A district removes or restricts a title from a school library, classroom library, or curriculum so students can't freely access it. And a lot of the books that are getting targeted are titles that include LGBTQ plus characters, race and racism, or mature themes like violence or sexual assault and things like that. That doesn't mean that the books are X-rated, but it just means that someone objected to that title or objected to that book,
Right.
and they had to pull it from the district.
Right. I think if somebody has like a large number of official requests to censor books or to remove books, it's called like a high challenge level. So like American libraries right now are seeing very high challenge levels all around because people are coming in and requesting that these books are being taken down.
That's a very, very touchy subject, I could
Yeah.
imagine, because I'll give you a really hard subject, which is what about the Bible? I'm sure every school library, does it have a Bible? Can you have a Bible in a school library? But like Bibles are probably allowed in a school setting because it's freedom of religion,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know about
I don't
the
actually
Bible.
know. Do they have
Yeah.
Bibles at schools?
If they allow Bibles, they should be allowing Qurans
Yeah.
and
Or Book of Mormonism,
Right.
or like literally any religious text should be allowed. Right?
I don't recall ever seeing that in my high school. High school, I don't remember seeing any religious books.
If you can ban LGBTQ stuff or ban or censor certain book titles and restrict them, then at what point is that not constitutional?
Right. And it's crazy because it says just last year, they had over 6,000 banned in library books.
Yeah.
And I think that's very touchy, like you said, because if you remove library books, you're removing access to information, and that's censorship. And as a nation, we shouldn't be censoring educational information. I understand if it's like pornographic or if it's completely inappropriate for like high schoolers to understand and learn about. But if it's an educational context, I do think that we should allow access all around. And if the parents don't want the kid to read about it in their classes, then maybe they should just put in a request and say only my child shouldn't be allowed to read that book.
The books that are being targeted are probably not the general sense topic ones that they're censoring for no reason. Because I do think that we read a lot of books in high school that had obviously like a lot of, I don't know, sexual innuendos or
Right.
like things like that. So for example,
even-
Oedipus Rex, right? Like it's literally
Right,
having a relationship with your own mother. And
Yeah.
like there's a lot of themes that are not, it's like
Right.
for adults or not
Right.
exactly age appropriate.
Or like there's To Kill a Mockingbird, they would say the hard N word
Yeah.
in there, but
It's educational.
It's educational because it's historically accurate based off of like maybe the age group, because a lot of the books that we see that are being challenged are books that are in young adult libraries.
Yeah.
Like there's this one book right here. It says All Boys Aren't Blue. This is apparently the #1 most challenged book of 2024, according to the American Library Association. And apparently this book is about, it's a young adult memoir that has a lot to do with like very frank scenes about like sex, survivor stories, and people are saying that the pages are too explicit for teens, but other people are saying that it's actually explaining about consent and safety and self-identity and self-acceptance, and that is actually really important for teens to understand that. But this book is targeted for teenagers and it's for high schoolers to read, 14 years old to like 18 years old. But that's different from like having that book in like elementary schools, right?
Yeah. I think for young adults, it makes sense. I think that for maybe kindergarten and elementary, you have to be much more careful about what's being shared, especially when it starts to revolve around sexual subjects. I don't know. It's just a very confusing
It
topic.
could be grooming in a way.
It is. It
Yeah.
is very grooming, yeah.
Teachers, what they do is they let the parents know, hey, we're going to be reading this book, this unit. It's about this and this and this. Do you give us permission to read this? And a lot of parents will sign yes, and they have the option to opt out. And just providing that option, I think, is enough.
I agree. I think that is where the line needs to be drawn, because
Yeah.
I've seen videos where a dad will come into school to try to remove his child from drag queen story time or something like that, and they will physically block him from retrieving his child. And if they don't want him to participate, I mean, even if you're physically blocking a parent from retrieving your child, like
Then
that
you're
almost
doing something wrong.
that almost tells me you're committing a crime.
Right, you're like hiding something.
You're hiding something,
Yeah.
right? Like just be completely honest
Yeah.
and be just be trustworthy and just say
Right.
like
Just
we're
be
reading.
transparent.
Just be transparent. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're reading this book. If you don't want us to read this book to your child, please tell us and we'll remove him. Right? Sounds appropriate to me.
Yeah, and I think that if majority of parents are okay with that book being read or the drag show being shown, then go for it, But if
Maybe it is a district by district case.
it
then.
is by district, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like for example, the All Boys Aren't Blue. It's not a nationwide ban, but it is district by district.
Yeah, and I can imagine why it's Florida, Texas,
Yeah,
and
a
Tennessee
lot of
that are
it-
banning it because they're much more conservative in those
Right,
states.
especially Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next topic is AI in schools. Apparently, on July 22nd, 2025, the US Department of Education said districts can use existing federal funds for responsible AI and launched an AI guidance hub. The idea is that AI shouldn't replace teachers, but it should save time and improve feedback.
Yeah, so they're using federal funds to now have programs to help teachers and students use AI to expedite and just make the whole process of teaching and grading a lot faster and more efficient. A lot of teachers are saying that they're using this to draft reading feedback faster. So a lot of times teachers would read an essay, they would jot down some notes. Maybe they jot down notes when they see a presentation, and they would give those notes to AI, and then AI would provide back with rubric notes with sentences, one positive, one thing you need to work on, and they would send that out to all the students.
I feel like I'm totally fine with AI, and I actually genuinely believe that everyone should be using AI. Teachers, students, not just teachers and students, but literally everyone at work. And I think it's the equivalent of Google. Once Google came out, everyone used Google to, do citations or do research or do whatever. And I think at some point, if you don't use AI, then you're basically going to fall behind because everyone else is going to use it while you choose not to use it, right?
AI should be used as your personal assistant. And as long as you're being transparent with the entire process of using AI, I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you want to keep it ethical, then you should do 3 rules. The first one is you need to show your process. So that prevents students from completing work and just cheating with AI. You give them a math problem and they just give you the answer using AI. No, you need to show your process, because we all know you're using AI now, but you have to explain how did you use AI to figure out the answer.
I also think that a very easy way to, maybe for math, could be okay, you did your math homework with AI, now do one live example. Here's a problem, it's the same problem on the homework, just show us step by step how it's done.
Yeah.
Right? And that'll be the test, right? Real-time test, and that'll quickly show whether you actually learned it or not. Is that something that teachers do? Or maybe even writing an essay? Like you can have AI write the essay, but if you yourself can't answer the question, if I ask you a question about what was a Shakespeare referencing when they, whatever it is, then like you have no analytical critical thinking skills, right?
Right. I think you should use AI to help you brainstorm, maybe, and you just jot down some notes and it helps you formulate the skeleton of an essay. But you need to be very clear on like how did you use the AI, how much time did you use with that, the tools that you used, and also to like maybe verify the facts, right? Like, oh, I used AI to fact check this, or I used AI to find like a counter argument for my essay.
Yeah. You can also use it for assistant purposes, right? So like grading or like
Yeah.
things that are monotonous, right? So if you're a teacher and you're grading for 25 students on, let's say it's not even for homework, it's just on whether they filled something out or did a form or, just like putting together a rubric or something very, very mundane or monotonous like that, then I can see why AI would save you a lot of time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you can focus on actual teaching. Right?
Definitely. I use AI for my progress reports. I give them, because I have to make progress report comments for all my students, and I don't write them all. I just tell AI, I just tell ChatGPT, hey, write a progress report for this student. His name is this. Behavior is such and such. Academic, such and such. And it'll make me like a 5-sentence progress report comment. I'm not going to write 5 sentences for every single student that I
take
have.
hours.
Yeah, same with like if I have high schoolers and they all turn in a 5-page essay, and I have more than 25 students at that point. I have like over 100 kids. I'm not going to read through all of that. I'm going to give that to AI and be like, okay, did they complete everything that I asked for in the rubric? And maybe it'll highlight the things that they're missing, or things that I need to go in and like write notes for. But it just expedites the entire process of all the labor that we don't have to be doing anymore.
There's a good and bad part of AI, which is obviously the way you're describing it is very balanced and it's very neutral, but I can see teachers using it poorly, right? Where they use AI for literally everything and it completely disconnects them from even being a human and reading what their students are writing, and it completely creates like a wall or a barrier between teachers and students. So I think it's important to not abuse it, right? There's probably teachers who can abuse it and students who can abuse it, but as long as you're using it responsibly and using it within very defined guidelines, then maybe it's okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, that goes for like anything. You need to have ethical, moral ground and boundaries before someone just comes and abuses it.
Yeah. All right, and our last topic is universal school choices, or ESAs. So the universal school choice means that any kid can use state money outside their zoned public school, private school, tutoring, or sometimes homeschool costs. And about 18 states now run universal program. And it's mainly done through ESAs, which are education savings accounts or vouchers and tax credit scholarships.
So it's basically saying that the states are providing ESAs or vouchers and tax credits, which means that
So the money follows the student. Is that the idea? So like a student doesn't have to go to the school district that they're zoned in. They can use it for homeschooling. They can use it for a school outside of the district. They can basically choose what they want to do for their own education because they get credits from the state to use it for their education.
Yeah.
So now the student can use it however they want to see it.
yeah, the eligibility is statewide, and especially for like low income or students with special needs. But the program's rules differ. So if it's an ESA, then it's an education savings account. And this means that the state is basically giving you money into like a debit card for your student, for your child. And the families can use it for like many different things. They can use it for like private school tuition, tutoring, speech therapy, occupational therapy, maybe like online courses, textbook, curriculum, basically anything that's education related, you can use that as ESA. The other one is vouchers or scholarships. This one is straight into a private school. So it's kind of like a ticket for you to have a scholarship into a private school. This only covers like tuition and like extra fees. So this doesn't cover like tutors or therapies or anything. It's just directly to a private school. The thing is that this provides a lot more options for kids, but what it does is that it creates a lot of need for flexibility in public schools, because this means that public schools have to do a lot with like more open enrollment, inconsistent attendance, school-wide because some kids will be taken out, some schools will be taken out or going into the schools. It'll affect maybe state tests or reports from the schools.
That sounds fine and all until people abuse it. Let's say you have an ESA and you have money that you're supposed to use on educational expenses. What if parents take it and use it for something that's not to the best benefit of their student, right? And then they run out of money before they can use it for the tuition that it was intended for, right? It could be mismanaged by the parent or by whoever, right?
It could be mismanaged, but people would argue that at least you're giving them a choice.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're giving them the choice, and then because people have never done it before, because they're not experts, they use it and they run out of money by month 2 and they have nothing for the rest of the school year. What do you, they completely just mismanage it.
Yeah, it's important to educate the parents on what kind of options they have and the pros and cons for each option. And it also depends on the states too. And like the states prioritize low income families. The states can either use the vouchers or use ESAs, or they don't have anything. So for example, Arizona uses universal ESAs. Florida has scholarships. Ohio has near universal vouchers. But in California, where we live, we're not provided anything. We don't have a program. We don't have a universal voucher or ESA program. It can provide families with a lot of different options, like new options, which is good, but it can also be bad, like you said, because they might abuse it. They might be jumping around, trying out different things, which can cause students to have inconsistency, instability in schools. Maybe you need to keep reteaching new routines.
I do think it could be a good thing because now it's treating schools like a business. So like if a parent's going to choose to give you money through their ESAs or whatever, then if you don't do a good job, they'll go to a different school.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's also important, or it's also really beneficial for families who don't have a lot of insurance because maybe you can't afford occupational therapy for your child or speech therapy, and now that you have ESA, yeah.
Okay. I can see a lot of flexibility. I think overall it sounds like it could be a good thing. I always have the lowest amount of confidence in any public use of money because I always imagine people just abusing everything like that, right? People just make bad choices if you give them choices.
I think there's a lot of pros and cons. Like another con is that as a teacher, you might need to coordinate with outside providers more. Whereas if I were to have a student who has speech needs, I would coordinate with the speech therapist in my school. But instead of getting services at my school, if they're gonna choose to do an outside servicer, then I, as a teacher, need to now communicate and email with that service provider and be like, hey, my student did this, there's an update with my notes, my observation went this way, and it's just a little bit more organizing, I suppose, within the school and outside. That's all for today.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Teacher Switch podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, thank you.